GEM2027 was a well thought out module with a structure that really focused on bringing out the public speaker in you. Students were gradually eased into the momentum of the course by first having two ungraded speeches, introductory and demonstrative, to give us an idea and feel of what is expected. For students like me, who did not know the amount of preparation that goes into delivering a good speech, having had to submit our preparation outline 2 days before the actual day really provided an impetus for me to prepare way before the actual presentation day, so that I won't suffer in front of the class as much. Having the confidence to speak in front of a crowd is one thing, but identifying with the crowd, engaging them, and addressing their concerns is another. A good public speaker excels in both these areas, and one way GEM2027 has taught us to achieve this was to emphasize on critical listening. By doing an oral and written critique, we were taught to be adaptive listeners through role reversals. This helped us to better understand how to tailor our speech by understanding the position of an audience, what they want to hear, and what questions they might have.
One of the speaking skills which I enjoyed learning about is persuasive speaking. I find this topic useful for many reasons. Firstly, as a listener, I train myself to be more aware of the details and supporting ideas when others speak. Secondly, I learned that for effective persuasion to take place, it requires me to understand my audiences, so as to address their concerns and also how to connect with them. It is through this experience that I realized how important it is to know how to communicate your ideas well. Lastly, the process of preparing the speeches forced me to be more thorough in my research and also finding a balance in my arguments that is both practical and convincing. What I like about the structure of the class was the relatively small number of people that we had. My course mates and I got comfortable with each other pretty quickly. It made me more like I'm talking to my friends when I was giving my speeches. Yes, I still feel nervous, but I could feel the support from my course mates by their responses to my speeches and questions. We took the suggestion from our tutor to give love notes in which we commented on the areas of improvement to our friends who gave their speeches that day. It was very encouraging for me as it made me feel that my efforts in preparing for the speech was appreciated and heard by the audience.
I feel that one of the most impactful moments for this module was during the impromptu speech. I'm a firm believer in enjoying the learning process and not just learning for the sake of learning. The impromptu speech was exactly that. All the other speeches in this module required us to prepare meticulously, to write an outline, to write cue cards, and to have rehearsed at least a handful of times. But the impromptu speech was a great way to let our head down and to enjoy the process of speaking. Not to mention, this speech actually showed us a lot about what we have learned in the duration of this course. It is easy to script to sound professional and confident, but when we're not given the luxury of time, we have to think on our feet and meticulously remind ourselves to apply all the good speaking techniques we have picked up in the duration of the course. All in all, this module has been a real eye-opener for me. I knew public speaking was hard, but it never occurred to me just how much effort goes into the preparation. The semester's worth of speeches really shed some light on the process, and I've come away with more capable at addressing an audience than I was before.
The first day I stepped into the class of 15 students, I was dead nervous. Various feelings were going on in my mind. Am I suitable for this module? I had no previous public speaking experience. I'm not a person who sees myself as an orator. Had I made a blunder in my first year of college? As the class progressed, we got to know more about the skills that go into public speaking. I still remember that we had to introduce one of our classmates in our first lesson itself. When it was my turn, I was shaking. Here was a group of people waiting to hear my thoughts. Luckily, the speech was not graded. On my way back home, I was talking to myself, hey, it's still week 2, drop the module to save yourself from a U grade. However, I decided to give it another shot. And 11 weeks down the road, I now believe that it's the best decision I have made in my freshman year. The amount of public speaking skills that I have learned through this module is something that will remain with me forever. I can now go out and talk to strangers with confidence if I had to. I can now address a large audience without shivers running down my spine. I can now put across my ideas more succinctly in my project group. I can now persuade my friends to start watching Game of Thrones. I'm now more prepared to give a toast at my sister's wedding. Indeed, the module started on a low for me, but as the time passed, I realized that what I have learned from this module could not be learned anywhere else.
Prior to taking this module, I never quite saw the need to write up beautifully written speeches or to think through the details of what I wanted to speak. Thanks to this module and the various practice speeches we had the chance to give, I've learned that it takes a lot more work to give a good impressionable and engaging speech. Having to do up so many speeches in a semester was surprisingly challenging, but it certainly helped to improve my public speaking and help me overcome my bad habits. Well, more has to be improved on, but it's a start. Through delivering different types of speeches, we got to learn that even seemingly simple speeches require much effort. You might think informative speeches are simply just to inform people, but in order to inform effectively, a lot of thought still needs to go into the speech. The speaker needs to consider the audience and explain in a fashion that is simple to understand and is relevant. What many of us learned after giving our speeches was the importance of making the topic relevant to the audience in order to keep them interested and engaged. One important learning point for me for GEM2027, apart from the speaking skills, was also the need to be an active listener. When one actively listens to a speaker, we analyze the speech content and structure and would in turn be able to help us predict the pitfalls of our own speeches. We transform it from a passive listener who just receives information to one who critiques the information received.